If you're a beginning bear hunter just learning to bait bears, this video has information that will take you from a rookie to a successful bear hunter if you follow these 10 steps. If you're an experienced bear hunter, you're probably going to get some nuggets of good information that you can add to your own experience that will help you improve your bear baiting before the end of this video. And if you don't know anything about bear baiting or think that it's easy and you just have to put a pile of donuts in the woods and shoot the first bear that comes along, you're going to be surprised at how complicated it is, and the fact that getting a mature bear to come to a bait site during legal shooting hours is one of the biggest challenges in hunting. It's not easy by any stretch, but it can be done if it's done right, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Let's dive right in. For each of these 10 topics, there are multiple videos on this channel where we do more of a deep dive into each of these subjects. And if you really want a crash course, and I mean like a college course in baiting bears, this channel has what you need. You just have to go back through and watch the bear baiting strategy playlist because there's so much good information in there. Okay, so number one, let's talk about general location. Obviously, the first thing is that you got to go where there's bears, and you have to pick areas where you have a chance of getting multiple bears on your site. You're not going to be hunting one bear. The best bear baits are going to have multiple bears on them, so they're interacting, they're fighting. You want your bait to be basically the hub of activity for bears in that area. So you're going to choose general location where there's a good population of bears and where you have access to. You obviously you got to be able to get in there, and we'll talk more about access in a little bit, but you've got to be able to get to the bears. You got to be able to get a lot of bait in there, and it's hard work. So choose your general location also based on that. You got a good bear habitat, you got bear food, you got water, you got everything that the bears need to cover. These are the types of things that you're looking for general location. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to find sign, but you have to know what bears need in their daily lives and choose your general location based on that. And once you choose a general location, then we're going to go and we're going to find a specific location. This is exactly where we're going to put the bait. So we're going to put the bait in a situation where the bears are going to find it quickly, obviously, and where they feel safe and comfortable there. So it's going to be in thick cover, and we're going to pay attention to things like the wind and so forth. And the first thing you're going to do is pick where you're going to put your tree stand. You want good background cover behind you. You want a stand that you can get into, if possible, without walking right through the bait, so you don't leave ground scent right at the bait itself. You're going to be within 15 to 18 yards of the bait itself, and about 15 to 18 feet high. That's going to give you the right angle to shoot an arrow through a bear, and you're going to have a low exit wound, so you're going to have a good blood trail. If you're hunting with a firearm, you can get back a little bit farther, but the primary thing you want to think about is find the tree that's going to help you access it quickly and easily with a minimum of noise, and you can get in the stand that's going to have background cover, because bears have good eyesight. They got great vision. A lot of people think they don't, but they do, and they're going to pick you off up in that stand potentially. So pick the tree stand first, and then pick exactly where you're going to put the bait, about 15 to 18 yards away. And this exact location is going to have an important aspect to it, and a lot of people overlook this, but it's critical, and that is the proximity to water. Bears are eating 20 to 30,000 calories a day at this time of the year when we're baiting, and they need a lot of water to help them process all those calories. So they drink a lot of water. It also tends to be hot at the times of the year when we're hunting bears, and so they need water in cool, dark places where they can lay down. The bears spend a lot of their days just laying in water. I think that surprises a lot of people, but you want to be close to water because that gives a place where a bear can fill up on your bait, and then he can lay up nearby. So when he's hungry again, he's close. That's our goal, is to have the bears stay close to the bait. This specific bait location also needs to have thick cover around it. Bears do not like to walk through open areas during daylight when they're approaching a bait. When they're going to a bait, they just kind of know that things aren't right, and they just have this uneasy feeling about them. And the more comfortable that you can make them, the more secure you can make them feel, the better. And so they got to have thick cover to move through. If you are going to expect them to go across an open field or even walk through a forest that has a high canopy and little ground cover, chances are they're not going to come to that bait during the daylight. And most people are really surprised to find that when they have trouble with nocturnal bears, more often than not, that trouble starts with your location of your bait, and the bears just don't feel comfortable approaching that bait in the daylight. So give them a corridor of cover to use to approach the bait. Now, one of the best ways to get bears on your bait quickly, of course, is using the wind. That's one of the reasons why I tend to avoid kind of low areas, and those low areas kind of allow the scent of the bait to sort of pool in around the bait rather than traveling. So if you can get up on a little bit of a ridge, let's say you got a swamp, goes up to a hill, get up on that hill a little bit so the evening thermals can carry that scent down as the air cools off, and any bears that are walking along the edge of a pond or a marsh or whatever, they're going to smell that bait. If you can find a spot that's narrowed down between, say, two lakes or any kind of land features that cause the bears to naturally travel those areas already, then put your bait right in those areas. Keep in mind that your bait's not going to do you much good if the bears can't smell it, so you absolutely don't want to put your bait in a situation where whatever breezes are available can't spread out the smell of your bait, because that's the key to getting bears on your bait in a hurry. And if you're hunting public land like mostly I do, where there's a lot of other baiters out there, the strategy of getting bears to your bait and having them find your bait first pretty much goes without saying, because there's a lot of competition out there and you want to be the one who collects the bears around your bait. Now, I mentioned access before, but here's a little more information on access. It's a lot of work to haul all this bait in there. If you got a bait that's going good, you might be bringing in hundreds of pounds of bait per day. In some states, they limit how much bait you can bring in, like Wisconsin, for example, but in most cases, you're going to be hunting in an area where you're just going to keep feeding those bears. You got to be able to get that bait in there and reduce your effort, because it's a lot of work. I try to have my baits where I can drive a four-wheeler or a pickup within 75 to 100 yards of them and then walk the rest of the way in. I don't like to drive right up to the bait with a four-wheeler, because you're going out there all the time and it's so hard to hide what you're doing. And like I said, I mostly hunt public ground, so you got other people out there that are going to see your four-wheeler trail. They're going to end up right at your bait. They might take your trail camera. They're just leaving more scent there that can alarm the bear. They might mess with it. So it's hard enough to hide what you're doing. I don't recommend driving right to the bait side. I recommend walking, and maybe even use a different trail sometimes to try to keep the evidence of what you're doing down. You got to try to reduce the amount of effort that it takes to get all this bait in there and haul in the barrels and the trail cameras, the tree stands. Then of course at the end of the season you got to haul it all back out. In most states and provinces, it's legal to use a barrel or a container of some sort to protect your bait from the weather. And if you're in an area where it's legal to use a barrel, I would suggest that you use them, because there's several advantages of using a barrel. And the first one is it protects your bait from rain, and the barrel can also allow you to kind of meter how much bait the bears can get at one time, rather than having bait just out all over the ground where every kind of animal can get to it and bears can just wallow around in it. The advantage of a barrel is that the bears will stay there until they get their belly full, because the longer they stay there, the more opportunity there is going to be for other bears to come and interact, and that's what you want. You want those bears interacting at your bait site. And of course, one of the biggest keys to getting bears to find the bait is using the right lures. And there are great commercial sprays nowadays that really work well. They're convenient. I start all my baits with Gold Rush, and it is a very powerful butterscotch kind of smell that you can mix with used fryer oil. If you take this cooking oil, put a little bit of Gold Rush in it, and just mix it up good, spray it around the trees, you know, throw it around the bait and so forth. It really, really works good for opening a bait. I just know those bears can smell it from long, long ways away, and it's good enough smell that they'll go, I just have to go find out the source of that. And then every time I visit the bait to replenish it or check the trail cameras or whatever, then I use the Northwood spray. And I tend to use the fruit type sprays in the fall, like the raspberry and blueberry and cherry and so forth. And then in the spring I tend to use more like the smoke, bacon, beaver castor is probably my favorite in the spring. And I know that there's a lot of people who learned to bear bait with things like molasses and honey and things like that, and if you like that, that's fine. Those will work okay, but the sheer drawing power and quality and convenience of these sprays, you can't beat it. One of the keys to getting bears on the bait, and especially to keeping bears on the bait, is obviously you've got to have really good quality bait. In most states and provinces that have a lot of bear hunting, baits are not hard to get. There's lots of dealers that are selling trail mix and candies and cookies and all of these types of things, nuts and seeds, and there's just a lot of bait available out there. It's really worth it to pay the money to get this good quality bait rather than just popping a bunch of popcorn or using table scraps or something like that. Use baits that the bears will really like and that they will keep coming back for. You want to use baits that meet their nutritional needs. And you can't use too much sugar. You know, I typically start out using quite a bit of sweets in the bait and then cut back as it gets closer to the season, because you can over sugar the bears. They'll eat too much sugar and then they just kind of go blah. It's like you can lose them. Be careful not to use too much sugar. And I'm talking things like candies and licorice and stuff like that. It's always a good idea to have some of it at your bait site, but make sure you have good quality food there for them from beginning to end. And probably the number one question that I hear people ask is, how much bait should I put out? The answer to that for me is really pretty easy. It all comes down to this. I don't want a bear to walk into the bait site and not be rewarded with something good to eat. So my answer to how much bait should you put out is just always keep bait there, if at all possible. If you have to travel a long distance, maybe you can only bait on weekends. It's hard to do that. Just keep as much bait there as you can, but figure out a way that within 10 days to 2 weeks before the season, always have bait there. I don't care, whenever they come, night or day, I want them to be rewarded with something good to eat. And I want the bears, multiple bears there that are, I want them fighting over the food. I can't overstate the value of having interaction of bears at the site. So the answer to how much bait should you use is as much as it takes to make sure they get fed and get rewarded each time they come to the bait site. So anyway, that's 10 basic tips that will really help you become a better bear baiter. And I appreciate if you want to leave a comment about this or ask any questions or whatever, please do that in the comment section below. Agree or disagree. I really thank you for watching this video, and thank you for being a subscriber. We'll see you on the next video.